Andy Hunder, there is the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine. He says many of his members have long held emergency contingency plans. Andy, fantastic to have you with us. I do want to talk about what you're seeing in terms of investment and what your members are saying. But first, I just want to talk to you there at the American Chamber of Commerce. How are you and your colleagues doing? And are any of those that are foreign talking about leaving, wanting to leave? How's sentiment there?
Well, business is resilient, and we're seeing that the business leaders and the general managers here in Ukraine, I mean, they're tough cookies. We as the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine, we are continuing our operations. We are in regular contact, daily contact with our members, with Ukraine's government and the US Embassy. And this is something we've been doing for the last 30 years, and we're seeing that the members, the companies, are continuing their operations in Ukraine. They've invested over $50 billion so far. They're employing 400,000 people, and they're really keeping the economy ticking over. Obviously, business contingency plans are in place. Many of these business contingency plans have been in place for years. Now they're being reviewed regularly almost on a daily basis now. The big issues are obviously cyber, and then very detailed contingency plans in terms of hibernation, relocation, evacuation. But also what we're seeing is more and more white collar and blue collar employees are saying, we're not going nowhere. We will stay to protect, to defend our community, our villages, our city, our country. And that's something we're seeing across the board. But as you say, I mean, it is very much. I mean, we just spoke with one company today. They have a vessel in the port of Odessa, which is due to depart over the next few hours. It's being loaded with 70,000 tons of corn. And a lot of this agriculture is feeding, many countries across the world. So I think it is also the supply chains across the world that continues. But generally, I think, the business is resilient, it's united. Probably the biggest challenges that the businesses are facing here on the ground is actually communicating with head office, with their regional office, because the apprehension is extremely high when you read, in Western media, and the mood on the ground is slightly more serene, I would say. It is calmer. The mood and what we see on the streets of Kiev, in the companies, they are continuing. Obviously, again, I reiterate that the contingency plans are in place, but it is something that many of these companies, these higher risk, have been seeing for the last 8 years, ever since Russia invaded and with the loss of Crimea and eastern parts of eastern Ukraine in Donbass and Luhansk.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to ask you, because we just showed some of your members, and these are huge businesses with big operations. They've been in Ukraine and operating for longer than a decade, so they have the experience and the example of what happened with Crimea and the invasion in Crimea back in 2014. I know it's difficult to compare and contrast in the run-up to that, but how does this feel differently, if at all? And when you're talking about the contingency plans and when they're reviewing those plans, what do you mean by that? What's the difference?
I think the difference here is clearly 2014, it was much quicker. It happened and there was less time to prepare. Whereas now, I think for the last number of months, or for at least a couple of months, we have been seeing, the apprehension, the tension, and the preparation. So, but I think at the same time, it is, having this resilience and being prepared. But again, at the same time, understanding that the businesses do continue. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks. But I think it is having, the resilience and the continuity plans. And it's different sectors. I mean, we talk about agriculture. Ukraine is a big player globally for agriculture. We talk about, cooking oil. It's the #1 in the world for exports of sunflower oil. So the fish and chips and the crisps that are being fried all across the world, more likely than not, some of that cooking oil is coming from Ukraine. The corn, some countries, 50% of all their corn comes from Ukraine. So the cornflakes that Europeans are eating tomorrow for breakfast, but also for animal feed. So this has a wider implication. But not only agriculture, I think we've seen information technologies. Ukraine is really booming in this sector in IT. Over 300,000 professionals working in the IT sector, keeping businesses, especially in the US, turning over with the banks and many companies.
I actually saw a tweet that you sent out about that, which I thought was fascinating. I just want to mention, I know it's government forecast, but that Ukraine's IT sector could be 10% of GDP by 2025, which I think would be incredible. And we can talk about that again, but it does tie to the point that you made earlier about the cyber risks. I have around a minute left. How concerned are your members about the cyber attacks that we've seen, particularly the latest one just in the past week, and how protected are they?
Well, obviously, it's a C-suite issue. So cyber is a key concern. I think, we are checking on a regular basis in terms of any vulnerabilities, in terms of all kinds of IT hygiene and making sure that the systems are in place. We are in regular contact with experts that are providing cybersecurity advice. But it is. And I think, in terms of IT, as you mentioned, that is a sector that is really booming and picking up. But again, it's being prepared because we saw the cyber attacks on 2 of the largest banks the day before yesterday. And this has a knock-on effect on the confidence. The hryvnia so far, it's been relatively stable. It did take a bit of a knock since the beginning of the year, devaluation of around 5%. But so far, we see that the National Bank is keeping it pretty much stable. And I think that's what we're hoping for the future, because the reserves are far better than they were in 2014. So, the various sectors, the agriculture, the IT, the manufacturing, much of the manufacturing in the automobile sector is coming from Ukraine, and very other sectors also. So I think the cost, this Russian aggression over the last 8 years, there was a recent report out literally last week, and it's putting a tag of about $250 billion. $280 billion is the cost that Ukraine is paying, Ukraine's economy is paying due to this Russian aggression. And I think that is something, we are here really to keep the economy going, to keep it running. And I think, we're very grateful to the companies that do believe in Ukraine, that are here and that continue to stay here. And I think now it's really waiting for that rebound. Hopefully we'll have clarity soon where we go from here, and hopefully Ukraine will be able to have a rebound of the economy and share, some of these good opportunities with many other new investors.
Andy, you're certainly doing a good job of promoting it. Fingers crossed, and stay safe, please. Thank you for joining us. Great to get your insights. Andy Hunder there, President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine.